is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
The Charlie Kirk murder, it is a story that is continuing to emerge with new information every single day. And we're going to discuss it here in just a moment with the retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer. But I need to say this, with this story changing literally every day, by the hour sometimes, facts, information, flowing, changing. Understand that when you're consuming information about this story. Because something that someone may have reported yesterday or the day before, or what someone thought was a fact or was presented as a fact and turned out not to be a fact, a lot of people are just trying to report with the best information they have. So take a deep breath before you go and attack somebody who's just trying to do their job. Just saying that. We have had no issues here, but I've seen a lot of vitriol out there on this, where just because someone is saying something, maybe that's was reported yesterday or incorrect, or you're consuming it a few days later, doesn't mean they're out to be against you or this or that. They're just trying to report what's known at the moment in time. Okay, now that that's established, what we understand right now, no radical underground cell, no years-long plot, no militant manifesto. Instead, we're learning that the man who allegedly killed Kirk, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, made the decision in just over a week, at least according to his writings that have been presented. And in that short time, he assembled a weapon, picked his target, left a handwritten note, and confessed in a flurry of text messages, all without alerting anybody. This isn't just a criminal investigation. It's a window into how supposedly a lone wolf and this violence can take root in silence and explode before anyone sees it coming. Jennifer, there's so much here to break down. I know you've been trying to break this down as well. Let's start with this handwritten note allegedly left underneath the keyboard. What's been your reaction to this piece coming out?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, this is incredible evidence. And I say this because this is not something that could be looked at as a coerced confession from law enforcement or a confession from somebody who's been a year in maximum security, a maximum a security facility in lockdown. This is something that was voluntary. And these are the best kinds of confessions. Now, having to say that, there's a few caveats here, right? The original note, that seems to be called into question, which means the FBI is going to have to do the proper paper trail with the witness who would have discarded it, Mr. Twiggs, apparently, and how exactly that was discarded. And that's going to be something that a jury is going to have to look at, all the details concerning that note, and see if they buy it or they don't.
And I guess that's my question, and I think a lot of people in the public have about this. We don't have the note. Apparently, it has been destroyed. Walk me through what we know right now factually about how this thing was destroyed, why it was destroyed, and then how do we know what was actually on it?
Well, we know what was on it. My understanding is from a photograph that was taken of it. And so now it's been transcribed, right? We can see it in typewritten fashion. And so
has the photograph been released to the public by chance? Do we know that?
Not that I have ever seen.
Okay.
Only
right.
This is supposedly what's happening. And I loved your caveat at the beginning. This is fast moving. For me, yeah. I don't say anything that I don't hear from the FBI, from law enforcement, from a prosecutor. That's typically my source of information. And then sometimes I will use information from a reliable mainstream media source like News Nation that I know I can trust. But as you said, things are ever changing and being disseminated.
Yeah.
Parts and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how this works. And if anyone has any understanding of how any breaking story happens, and this still is very much a breaking story, at the beginning, there is a lot of information. And because someone reports something incorrectly, doesn't mean they're trying to do it to hurt someone or anything. It's sometimes we just get facts incorrect. There are people out there that, yes, do report information that's not factual on purpose. It's not everyone, and it's probably not a majority of reputable reporters either. So, yeah, take a breath, everybody. Thank you. So what we know right now is that there's this letter that there's supposedly an image of Do we know if it was handwritten? Do we know if it was typed? What do we know about it other than this?
All we know that I've read is that it was a letter. In fact, my information comes directly from the prosecutor.
Okay.
And the prosecutor did not delineate specifically whether it was handwritten. He said a letter that was written by Robinson, as I recall. So we don't know.
And then this would be having an image, supposedly, we don't know, maybe the answer is this, we don't know, taken by the partner that found it and like on his phone took a picture, supposedly. Is that how we're understanding this?
That's how we're understanding it. Now, the partner, and to be very clear, they have called him the lover. I refer to him as the lover because it's very confusing, right? Is he a roommate? Sure. Is he a partner? Is he a lover? He's a lover. That is how law enforcement is, in fact, describing him. His name is Lance Twiggs, and Lance Twiggs has purportedly took a picture of it, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
And then it'll be interesting to see handwriting analysis, all of that. I mean, it obviously needs to be verified, that it was him, because this is coming in from a third party now, or another party, not directly, from him, but we'll see where that goes. I'd be very curious to see that. Do you think the FBI will release that in the near future, just with the amount of eyes on this and the amount of transparency that really feels needs to exist in this investigation?
Well, when you look at it, a lot of people, particularly in the legal circles, are really hammering on this prosecutor for everything he's already released. A lot of legal beagles do not like what he has done. They're saying, they're concerned about jury pools being tainted and about this information coming out, and the fact he said these are facts known, right? Saying that they're already facts.
Yeah.
But they are facts in his view. I mean, some things are just factual. A, we have text messages. A, we have DNA. Or B, we have DNA. C, we have this letter. It's not like he's making this up. I believe them to be actual facts. It's how a jury will interpret those. So, Tony, essentially, I think what we have is, even with this letter, Tony, it's going to depend on how well this chain of command can be proven, and if people believe Lance Twiggs. It makes a lot of sense because we have text messages where he was told by Robinson, listen, get rid of the, don't say anything, get rid of this letter. And so he does it. So it all kind of makes sense.
And I want to get to those text messages in just a little bit. But first I want to talk about, and Robin and me were talking about this yesterday. We were texting back and forth about it. And his mind was just kind of blown on this. I'm curious to get your perspective of just how, I guess, callous this seems to have been. That this wasn't, when we think of actor that does this sort of things, it wasn't some long thought out ideology where he was, as far as we can understand yet, militarized or this or that. He was pissed, it seems, and knew he had access to a weapon and decided to go take the shot. At least according to the text message exchange, that's pretty much what we understand as of right now. Is it that simple? Because I think a lot of people are expecting, and their expectations may just be wrong, that this to be something far deeper, far greater, far more ideological, far more thought out, for this kind of impact on the world and people to have it been all orchestrated by somebody basically having an opinion and not having any sort of good problem solving skills.
Well, when you look at cases like this, and I know all of us in the FBI come from a different place. We have different experience. We have different kinds of cases that we've investigated and been a part of. For me, I'm not surprised, but let me tell you why. When you look at like a McVeigh, who decided he was going to go and blow up a federal building using very archaic, getting a truck and, getting some fertilizer. To blow something up, there's literally cookbooks online. Everybody knows this, so I'm giving you some big epiphany. And to shoot somebody again, all you need is a gun of a decent quality, like a Mauser, which was a high quality rifle, combined with a good scope. That's all you need, really, to take anyone out you want. So unlike what people think in their minds, because they've watched way too many Mission Impossible shows, I think, these missions are not impossible. And when lone wolves, who the FBI has characterized for decades as being the number one issue in terms of terrorism, that is a problem for safety within our civilization, within the United States, it's completely understandable to me that they all emanate from individuals with wackadoodle philosophies that are angry at somebody, and then they decide to take action. It really is as simple as that. And there's historically been so many instances.
Is it because we feel psychologically safer if we think, well, there must be a lot more to something like this, and it would be easier to catch if there was much more back end to this story other than this guy seeing that Charlie Kirk was coming to his campus and deciding, I'm going to go do this? Because that really seems how this played out. If all of this ends up being completely accurate, I think sometimes it is safer in our minds to think, well, it's a bigger, greater thing that would go after something like this or someone like this. Is that what's at play? Is that why we find it hard to believe sometimes that sometimes the simplest answer really is the reality?
Well, no one likes to embrace Occam's razor. Mm-hmm. That's sort of, my mantra and the mantra of most FBI agents. It's literally Occam's razor. It's not about some Israeli forces, Mossad working over here and getting people to orchestrate, him to get on the roof and do this, and Crooks to get on the roof and take a shot at the president.
Yeah.
These are kids that are angry. They have issues. They don't fit in society for various reasons. And quite frankly, they're just looking to make a huge name for themselves, to live in infamy. And I think that really is the crux of it. And for us to say, oh, this must be something greater, I think television weighs into that. I really do, Tony. People think that television is reality, and it couldn't be further from reality when it comes to investigations and cases like this.
Sometimes it's interesting because our brains aren't the greatest at deciphering reality from fantasy. That's a big thing when it comes to television. While we may, on the outside go, oh, yeah, that's a drama show, that's a reality show. Sometimes our brains don't necessarily pick up that part of it, and then when it comes to the back end processing of things, we get confused, and then we have distinguished notions to go this way or that way. Sometimes based on fantasy, but we're not necessarily realizing it at that moment in time. I want to talk about the text exchange, and I have it here next to me. I want to go through it for people who have not read this yet, and I want to get your reactions to it as we read through it. So this is Robinson and then the roommate, Twigs. Robinson starts, I'm still okay, my love, but I am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long, but I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. The roommate says, you weren't the one who did it, right? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Robinson, I am, comma, I'm sorry. Roommate, I thought they caught the person, question mark. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town is locked down now. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but one vehicle is lingering. I'm just going to stop there for a second on this. What's your take on this letter? And I don't know, the callousness of this, the language of this. I don't know. Is he that dumb, I guess, is the question. Or I just, there's something is feeling weird about this.
And a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said, listen, people who are in this age bracket would never text like this. And I really don't believe that. You can't take because
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it just feels weird. I don't know what feels weird. So, I don't want to insinuate that I'm saying that. I just don't know. But it just feels this idea that maybe he's that stupid. I mean, maybe he is just, I got to go grab my rifle. I thought I'd be able to get it. I thought I would live to old age. I mean, is this just some real grandiose thinking by a really stupid 22-year-old?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, the movie that I actually do think is true to form is Pulp Fiction, for anybody who's watched it. You know, they hit a bump and he shoots the guy in the back and he says, "Oh my gosh, I just killed Marvin." And, you know, they're arguing over who's going to clean up the brains. The reality of law enforcement, the reality of crime is it becomes very normal. Mm-hmm. And so you talk in this sort of callous and everyday type vernacular when you're talking about things that are horrible, like an assassination. And it catches people off guard because they're talking about, it looks like they're talking about gardening or something else. And it's that tone, like, wow, I forgot to pick up my stuff at the cleaners. Oh, I'm pretty sidetracked, but I'll get to the other side of town when I can. And you're talking about indicia of an assassination. So I get it, Tony. I get why it just seems so off.
And I think maybe that hits the tone more. Cause I mean, I did initially kind of feel like, I don't like, not 22-year-olds don't talk this way. They don't. But look, he was a 4.0 student. He probably spoke a little more adult than other kids his age, I would say. I know he's not a kid technically, but so I mean, I'm not completely discounting that by any means. But I think that's what I'm getting, and that's the weird vibe to this is just the callousness of this whole thing. It continues with roommate, why? And then Robinson, why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. And then him again, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I don't bring it back. Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in the bushes where I changed outfits. Don't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I was left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge WU on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really fucking sucks. He's talking about this I said this to Robin and he agreed. I said he's talking about like it's a side mission on Grand Theft Auto, like he's playing a video game, and this is real life. It's just the casualness is get the shocking part of this whole thing.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.